everybody. Welcome to Adventure in a Backpack Quebec edition. We just got back from Canada a few days ago, and we thought we'd give everybody a quick summary of kind of what we did. So we went up to Canada to see our friends Jordan and Emily. I've been up there one time before, and this time we kind of went up to see them, of course, but also to see their new baby Grace. She was born about 4 months ago, and so we decided to go up and see her, and also be a good opportunity to check out Canada in the wintertime.
So we left out of Kremling here on Friday and left backpack here and headed down to Denver so that we could fly out of DIA on Saturday. This was our first time actually flying with all of our camera gear. You know, as luck would have it, I did get searched. They pretty much just took everything out of my bag and wanted to see every single piece of my camera and know what it did. But it wasn't a big deal. So we got on the plane no problem and had a quick layover in Washington D.C. and then got into Ottawa about 6:30. And then Jordan picked us up from the airport and we headed over to their house. So Sunday we got up early, loaded everything up into the Jeep, got all of Grace's baby stuff and stroller and everything loaded into the Jeep, and then headed over towards Quebec. We drove into Montreal and stopped there for lunch at a local kind of well-known restaurant called Schwartz's, and they're really well known for their smoked meat sandwiches, so that's what we had. And they're basically just kind of like a corned beef-esque type sandwich, but they were really good. Jordan and Nate had some poutine, which is basically French fries with cheese curds and gravy on it. After that, after lunch, we headed out from Montreal and headed to an ice skating area near Trois-Rivières, which that means three rivers in French. That place was called Domaine de la forêt, perdue, and that basically was a 12-kilometer trail that you could ice skate all of these trails through like the woods, basically. So it was a really, really cool, really neat experience. Not something that we'd ever really experienced before, ice skating through the woods. After we finished ice skating, we stopped and grabbed some maple taffy, which was basically maple syrup, kind of a more dense maple syrup that was processed into a taffy and then put into the snow and rolled onto a stick, and then you eat it kind of like just a lollipop. So really freaking good. Not something that we'd ever experienced. Very Canadian. So yeah, and then after all of the ice skating and everything, we probably skated for a good couple of hours, and then we drove into Levis, which is where our condo was, which is just right across the St. Larry River from Quebec City. That night was Super Bowl Sunday, so we all put on our Broncos gear and cheered on the Broncos and watched them dominate the Super Bowl.
Monday morning we woke up, had breakfast, and our condo was kind of elevated a little ways on the hillside, and so we walked down this staircase that was pretty close to the condo down to the ferry. It's probably about 300 foot of elevation, honestly. It's pretty good. It was a big staircase. So once we got on the ferry, it was a pretty cool thing because the St. Laurie River is pretty much frozen. I mean, it's frozen. There's ice sheets, big ice chunks. It's, probably a foot thick in some spots. But that ferry we were on just smashed right through it. It was kind of cool to watch. I pretty much spent the whole time out on the front deck watching it all. So once we got across the river to Quebec City, the bottom of it, it's built up on a hillside, and we pretty much just wound our way up one side of the hill, stopped in at all the different shops and everything that kind of line the hillside. Lots of touristy stuff, t-shirts, snow globes, bobbleheads, all that good stuff. But we kind of stopped and looked at all I think the best part about it was the buildings. The buildings were really, really pretty, really old buildings, really cool doors. The doors were really neat. And the cobblestone roads were very cool as well. So we made our way up the hill. Once we got to the top of the hill, we got to the bottom of the Fairmont Le Château Frontenac, and that is kind of the most prominent building in most of our pictures. It's just a beautiful hotel, super, super nice. And it's kind of, I don't know, real majestic looking, I would say. So anyway, we got to the bottom of that, took some pictures, and looked around the bottom of that place for a little bit, and then made our way on around and kind of explored the area surrounding the hotel. We ended up going to a pub for lunch called Pub St. Alexandre.
Excuse me.
Bless you. You done?
Yeah.
And the pub we went to, it was a pretty good spot. It was on the map, labeled as 200 beers. So we were like, we can't go wrong with 200 beers. And so we went in. It was a good place. It was kind of pricey for what it was. They did have 200 beers, but only like 8 were on tap. So it wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be, but still good nonetheless. We headed down the hill, kind of on the other side, made a bit of a loop around, and stopped at a more authentic place to my imagining, and picked up some vin chaud, which is hot wine. It's hot wine, maple syrup, all mixed together. It's pretty good. Kind of warmed you up from the inside since it was getting colder. That was at a bistro, Sazéchou.
Cassicou?
That was a bistro Cassicou. There was a place next door that was called La Petite Cabane et Sucré, and basically it was a maple syrup place. They had maple syrup candy, maple syrup taffy, maple syrup, maple candles, anything that you wanted to make maple out of. You could get it there.
So this is, they take the hot maple syrup and they pour it down on the snow, and then they take a popsicle stick to roll it to make it into fresh taffy.
Outside of it, there was a Christmas tree that had maple taps that you
Spiles.
Maple spiles that you smashed into the tree to get maple syrup out of maple tree. So that was pretty cool. So once we got done with that place, we went on down the hill back to the ferry and started going back across the river. Once we got on the ferry, I was kind of looking out at the river, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I must have gotten turned around because I feel like the river is going the opposite direction it was whenever we first got on it. Didn't think much more about it, just thought I was kind of turned around. Came up to Jordan, and Jordan's like, man, is the river going the wrong way? And I just kind of laughed it off. I just thought he was messing with me, and didn't think much more about it. But then once we got back to the condo, I looked down and realized that the river was 100% going the opposite direction. And so we were kind of weirded out by it at first, and we're like, how is this possible? How is this river flowing upstream? And so basically it turned out that that part of the river is close enough to the ocean that whenever the tide comes in, it goes upriver, and whenever the tide goes out, it goes downriver. So that was a new thing for us. That kind of weirded us out. We didn't know that was a thing. So after we got back and had some dinner, we got out and went to a little microbrewery to grab some beers to bring back to the condo. We went to Corsair Brewing, a little local microbrewery there that serves a lot of the restaurants and stuff, and they brew all their own beer there in-house. And it was really cool. Like the inside of the brewery was really neat. It was a like pirate theme kind of thing. And just pirate ship, skull and crossbones, skeletons, and that kind of stuff. It had a pretty cool vibe to it. Took a look around the back, bought some beer, and then headed back to the condo.
So on Tuesday, we got up kind of early and headed back across the river to Quebec City to see the Carnaval de Québec. And the Carnival was basically the whole reason why we were coming to Quebec City. Something that is pretty big and well known in Canada, and something that we'd never experienced, and Jordan and Emily had never experienced. So we thought it would be a great time for all of us to head down to Quebec together and have this experience. And taking Grace with us was a bonus as well. So got to the carnival, and it was it was a carnival, so it was geared towards kids, and there were lots of There were lots of kids things to do. We started out going through the ice castle, which is basically exactly what it sounds like, a huge castle that is made out of all ice. And so you kind of go through all of it, and they've got like a little sitting area that's all made of ice. The chairs are made of ice. The fireplace is made of ice. There's a pool table made of ice and everything. So it was really pretty neat seeing how much work went into making something like that. After we headed out from the ice castle, we went across to kind of the main area where all of the activities were for the carnival. They had some really cool stuff, and we really enjoyed the fact that even though it was geared towards kids, they didn't have any problem with us big kids doing all of these activities as well. So they had things like ice sled races, human bowling ball, snow sculptures. They had a big obstacle course. They had human foosball. It was really just all around a whole lot of fun. Just had a lot of things that all of us could do. You could do as a family. You could, the boys had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. And it was just all around really fun. It was really cold out that day, and it was a Tuesday, so it really wasn't all that crowded. So we didn't have to wait in any lines for just about anything. And even though it was cold out, we just bundled all of ourselves up, and we bundled up Grace, and we put her in what we were calling her stick baby suit, because she pretty much was like this the whole time. It was adorable. But she was nice and toasty the whole time, and we were all pretty comfortable with the way we had dressed. That evening, we headed back to the condo and had dinner at the condo, and then Emily and Grace and I stayed in the condo. Emily and I stayed up and just had a little bit of wine and chit-chatted the rest of the night, while Nathan and Jordan went and explored the town some more.
Yeah, so we went back down the hill and went across back into Quebec City, and back kind of the area that we went to the first day. Basically, JT was kind of learning how to use this new camera they got, and so we went back across and got some night pictures. Everything was all lit up really pretty, and it's so much easier to take pictures whenever the scenery is beautiful. So we went over and, I played around with my camera and tried to learn how to use it a little bit better, and he did the same. We kind of worked our way up the hill, back around the hotel, and then off to, we ended up at a bar up there and grabbed a beer from there. And so I don't normally talk about this, but so the bathrooms of this bar or something I'd never really seen before. All the toilets were in their own little cubicles, if you will. I mean, they had doors and everything, but they were all lined up in their own cubicles. The whole thing was like a plywood walls, and they had markers down there, so everybody had signed their names on the walls, and there was just, I wrote the Adventure on a Backpack logo, on the wall, but I was having to write over other people's names to put it on there. It was that packed. But, in the middle, it had a bathtub with some really dramatic lighting. Just a clawfoot bathtub, and that was actually the sink, and there's just some copper lines coming down out of the ceiling. It's where you wash your hands. Definitely a unique thing for a bathroom.
So on Wednesday, we got up relatively early, packed up all of our stuff, and left Quebec and went back to Ottawa. Didn't really have much to talk about that day. We pretty much just drove all day and then headed back to the house. So that was Wednesday.
Yeah, so Thursday it was really cold out. Wind chill was in the negative 22, 25 range Fahrenheit. We kind of stayed inside until about noon or 1 o'clock, until right after lunch, and then me and JT went on up the road to the school, where they got an outside hockey rink, which is a basketball court that's wintertime, frozen over. They got it set up for a hockey rink. Went out there, shot some pucks around, and I had never played ice hockey before, so that was a first for me. And so yeah, I had a really good time there. Stephanie and Emily brought us up a few beers to have at our intermission, and whenever JT opened his, it kind of spewed over a little bit on the top, kind of foamed up. And no big deal, for the most part. But like the fact was that it was negative 22 out. It froze into like this beer mushroom on top of his can, and so it froze so much that he couldn't drink any more of it. It made like an ice cap on the top of it. Mine didn't do that, but I got like probably drank like a quarter of it, and it froze. So those are our Canada problems. It was really cold out that day. That evening we went to the NHL game. The Colorado Avalanche were coming into town to play the Ottawa Senators, and that was a lot of fun because it's like hockey's like Canada's sport and everything like that. So it was really cool to go to an NHL game where everybody takes everything so seriously. And it was even more fun that the Avalanche won. And we tried really hard to get on the Jumbotron, didn't work. So it is what it is. But yeah, we still had a blast. Actually watching hockey in Canada.
Friday was our last day in Ottawa, unfortunately, but our flight was relatively late in the afternoon. So we got up, and Nate and Jordan went and played some more ice hockey. I went out and watched them this time and took some pictures of them and everything. And then we pretty much packed up, did some laundry, and then headed to the airport and left for Washington, D.C. I got searched yet again, which is not normal for me. But I got pulled to the side, and basically all they did was they swabbed my backpack for whatever they swabbed for, and then they gave me the option of either being patted down physically or going through the body scanner. And since in the US you pretty much go through the body scanner every time, I was used to that, so I just went ahead and went through the body scanner, and no big deal. Probably delayed us maybe 2 minutes. But I think what was noteworthy on this, and pretty interesting, pretty funny, pretty cool in general, was that the agent that was searching me and everything, he was what you would consider your typical Canadian and being just super nice. And the entire time that he was having to search me and search my backpack and everything, he kept over and over apologizing to me and saying, "I'm so sorry for this inconvenience. You just got randomly selected." And so I thought that was kind of funny because, he's just doing his job. He wasn't inconveniencing me at all. I mean, it literally took us maybe an extra 2 minutes to get through it, but wasn't a problem. But he was incredibly nice, and I really appreciated that. So that was basically our whole trip to Canada. And after that, we headed to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and that'll be our next video talking about our Washington, D.C. trip. But yeah, we had an absolute blast. It was, every time we go up there, we've had a good time. So anyway, that's all we've really got for this trip. We'll put out a new video on our Washington, D.C., so stay tuned for that. And until next time, live vicariously.